Hey, Hawkeye fans! Chad Leistikow, Des Moines Register. Tyler Tachman, Des Moines Register. Whew, what a game, Tyler. Iowa beats Penn State 25 to 24. Hawkeyes, just like in 2021, trailed Penn State by double digits, comes back in front of the striped out Kinnick crowd, and pulls out a win in the 20s. Man, where would you begin with this one if you were telling somebody this story? How would you start the story, Tyler?
I would start the story with that this took some years off of my life. I don't know how many, but the game definitely shortened my life by a little bit. But where will we start? Well, I think where we should start is that I was down 21-10 and disaster ending to the first half. And then Penn State on their first offensive drive of the second half goes down and scores. And you're sitting there and it just felt bleak. It felt bleak, like Iowa, that might be it for them. And pretty incredible resilience and fight from Iowa at that point to come back. Mark Gronowski came up in the clutch. It wasn't a good day passing the ball for Iowa's offense, but found a lot of success running it. And I think, just the resilience that Iowa showed against a Penn State team that just lost their head coach. And there was obviously a lot of reason for them to be motivated to play this game, but just the resilience and perseverance that Iowa showed when it got to be 21-10.
Mark Gronowski said something after the game, and I would start with Gronowski, probably that too, but just what an incredible performance from the transfer quarterback. I mean, this is why you brought him in, and it is a real shame that he was not on the field against Indiana in the final minutes, because when you see kind of the stuff he pulled off tonight in this game, first of all, if you're an Iowa football fan of any length of time, you can't remember probably the last time Iowa got the ball with its offense with a chance to make a drive to go win the game or even just tie the game. And they actually did it. And this was a two-play, 75-yard drive in this case. But it just doesn't happen very often. And Mark Gronowski delivered. But what I was going to say when I started that sentence, that run-on sentence, is that Gronowski said something in the postgame is like after he so he had that 37-yard run on a draw. It was when it was 21-10 on third down. And he's like, after that, I think we scored every drive. And he's right. They actually scored on every drive other than the blocked field goal, starting with after the Wampa interception. So they went TD, field goal attempt, end of half, that failed miserably. TD, field goal, TD, and then kneel down. So um, that's pretty impressive. I did not realize that every possession in the second half that Iowa had, which was only three possessions plus the kneel down thing, I mean, they didn't punt, they didn't turn it over. You know, the offense won this game, Tech. I mean, the defense did too, but the offense had to pretty much be perfect in that second half, and they got it done.
And this felt sort of like a defining moment for Mark Gronowski's career at Iowa. Like, I think he's had some other ones. This was on the biggest stage. Like, this was there had been some ones in a negative sense where the first game against Albany where the nerves got to him, or against, maybe not being out there on the field against Indiana, which wasn't his own fault. But in terms of the moments that you think of where he has really helped Iowa, you think to the Rutgers game where Iowa was losing and he kind of leads the comeback charge. But this was because of the stage, because of the opponent was kind of on a whole different level. And it felt like him kind of really planting his stake as a Hawkeye. And to do that with Iowa trailing by double digits. And I think we might not have, we've, the long run on that go ahead touchdown drive was obviously big, but that third down run that you mentioned, that was huge, because Iowa was kind of felt like they were in a major danger zone at that point, and that really gave Iowa some life. And his legs, even, and now we've seemed to move past a little bit the knee issue that he had against Indiana, but like his legs have just been such a weapon. Like, he has not been a consistent passer at Iowa. He's had some good moments, but it just, the passing game hasn't been there. But the way that he is able to make plays with his legs, and it's not like he's the fastest guy. he just like I think it's just some of that intangible like toughness that he has, that he just finds a way to make plays when Iowa needs him, and that's what he did against Penn State. It's not like, and credit to I think the offensive line probably deserves some credit for that too, for the way that they've played, the way that they've kept Mark Gronowski upright in the pocket. But to me, it felt like kind of the most defining moment for Mark Gronowski's Iowa career up to this point. There'll be chances for more, but this felt like, okay, this is why you bring him in, and he delivered when the lights were really bright.
Yeah, Iowa ends up rushing for 245 yards on 33 carries, so 7.4 per carry. Now, obviously, a couple long runs. I mean, they've been searching for these long runs all year, and wouldn't you know it, Mark Gronowski is the one that delivers the two biggest runs of the year, basically. Yeah, it was 38 yards, 3rd and 3 from Iowa's 33-yard line, so threes were wild there. 8 minutes to go in the third quarter. It's 21-10. Yeah, that was the play. And Gronowski actually talked about that in the post game, that was kind of the play where finally started to get some vibes in the stadium. He goes down and scores that touchdown, and he really had a kind of a really significant celebration. Like,
Yeah,
he really got the crowd
demonstrative,
into it.
yeah.
I mean, for being down in a game, he was like, he was revving him up down there in the north end zone. And, that's like, when I saw that, I was thinking to myself, I'm not going to tweet it or anything, but that's like a winner right there. Like, that guy knows he needs to get this crowd up. They're still in the game. It's 21-16. Of course, they missed the 2. I did not like the decision to go for 2 there. We can talk about Kirk Ferentz's decisions if we want. He was thankful that none of them cost the Hawkeyes today. But yeah, Gronowski he was a winner today, and that's what he is. He is a winner. He is now 54-8 as a starter, and the Indiana game honestly shouldn't count against him. That goes down as a loss for him, but he didn't get to finish that game. So, I mean, I'm going to say he's 54-7-1 maybe, or incomplete. So, no, I mean, I consider me very impressed, especially, I mean, Tyler, considering the injury. I mean, lest we forget, a week ago at this time, pretty much, we didn't know if he was going to, or like 8 days ago, we weren't sure he was going to start this game.
Yeah, well, you mean start the Wisconsin?
Start the
game?
Wisconsin
Yeah.
game. Yeah. Like, who knew? I kind of thought maybe he'd start this one, but at least he was going to be out there. But anyway, yeah. So he was running out there with this injury. 130 yards, the most ever by an Iowa quarterback, apparently. That was what we were told.
Yeah.
In a game.
Well, and let's be quite blunt about it. Like, Iowa almost served Penn State this game on a silver platter.
Oh, yeah. No
I mean,
question.
this
That's
was
what makes the win almost more gratifying, I think, if you're a Hawkeye fan, because they tried every way to give this thing away.
Yeah, it was pretty. Yeah, I mean, so the game, first off, the way the game started, we talked about this leading up to the game. Like, okay, you can't have a start like you did against Indiana, right? Where it's like throw a pick on the first possession. Yeah, possession. And basically nightmare start. Like
same start.
Yeah, basically. I mean, from my vantage point, Jacob Gill should have caught that. That interception was not on Mark Gronowski. But anyways, then Penn State is on a short field, and Iowa stops him on 4th and goal, but there was offside, so you give Penn State another chance. They punch it in for a touchdown, and so it felt like deja vu to the Indiana game, where it's like Iowa starts with the ball and like almost immediately digs themselves a hole. And I was fortunate. I think the pretty obvious difference here is that Penn State is not Indiana, and that you could get away with this just by a hair against Penn State, but that wasn't going to be the case against Indiana. There was a lot of parallels to the Indiana game, I thought, in this one, similar to that. Iowa's defense was on the field, and it looks like we have a visitor. Iowa's defense was on the field near the end of the game and brought a 0 blitz, and this time it worked out on 4th down as opposed to 3rd down against Indiana where it didn't work. And then the other major miscue was on Kirk Ferentz, and I mean, that can be a whole conversation if we want to get into that, but trying the 66-yard field goal at the end of the half. Hindsight now, I mean, I was not in favor of kicking it because I just thought there was so many things that could have gone wrong. Like, because you had a returner back there for Penn State that I was more worried about that of it potentially being returned if the kick was short. So that Kirk Ferentz took responsibility for it after the game, but that was just a brutal sequence for Iowa. Should have been going into halftime leading, and instead goes down trailing by 4. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we
We were
trying
trying
to
to
rain outside, so someone was coming in to close. Also said we got to be out here by 1 a.m., so we're gonna hustle. But
so we have 50 minutes.
yeah, we can go for a while.
This is
we
our
went long last week.
second podcast, post-game pod in a row after midnight, right?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Okay. We're not driving in this one.
So, okay, for the record, I approved of the at the time I approved of the decision to try the 66-yarder because I've seen him.
I didn't want to out you. I didn't want to out you on that.
And I still I'm not that critical of him for that decision. Because we've seen Drew Stevens make these in warm-ups, and he says he's done it in practice. Now, obviously, it worked out horribly, and Penn State executed it beautifully, by the way, because they sent their punt rusher, instead of trying to rush it, they sent him behind it in case they did block it with the middle of the line, because that's where you're going to block it. And it worked out amazing for Penn State. I mean, crazy. It's crazy how a block can work out so well, and it did. But so I honestly didn't mind it. So you guys can come after me if you want. He said it was a dumb decision. He said he let emotions get the best of him. And the one thing I would say where I do understand as a head coach, when you see the first kick fall 5 yards short and you still try it again, I understand it did feel a little greedy in that moment. I was saying, I'll even back myself up further and second, if you want to whatever Monday morning quarterback this, I didn't even think Iowa should call timeouts down there earlier when Penn State had the ball, because I said, let them run out the clock. Take your 10-7 lead at halftime. But then, of course, Iowa gets the ball back, and then I got greedy just like Ferentz did. I said, why not try it? And here's why, okay? Here's one reason why. And I put this in my column. Everybody was bitching about Iowa not trying a 66-yard field goal at the end of the Iowa State game last year. Instead, Cade McNamara threw a Hail Mary. I know, I understand that was the only way. In that case, if you threw a pick six or something or whatever, if that got blocked then big deal. The game was over anyway, but because there would have been no risk to it. But I said everyone wanted him to try it in hindsight, and now he tried it and it didn't work. So he's never going to try anything again.
Yeah, I just felt like there was too much to lose. There wasn't a whole lot to gain.
I would agree you were anti in the press box, but I was for it. I said, I think he can make it.
I think he could make it, but the way the game was going, the way Iowa's defense was playing, it was just you can't gift wrap something for Penn State.
What if he could have made it, though? If he would have made it, 66 yards, Kinnick's going crazy, 13-7, Penn State gives up.
But and Kirk Ferentz said this, so he was asked after the game, do you feel like your team bailed you out from that decision? And he said yes.
Yeah.
Because can you imagine if Iowa lost this game?
Oh yeah, for sure. No question about it. It was who Mike asked it. Mike Kloss asked it.
Yeah.
It was a good question.
Yeah, and there would have been very heavy criticism on Kirk Ferentz, even more so than now if Iowa would have lost the game. Yeah. So Iowa did kind of bail him out for that decision. Yeah. And it's weird just because it's just not a very Kirk Ferentz decision, taking that type of risk.
Do it. Yeah.
So that made it even more perplexing. But it's
Iowa fans are becoming more conservative than Kirk Ferentz.
Yeah. Well, how the tables have turned.
Turntables have turned.
Yeah. I thought the defense played well. Because
speaking of who bailed him out, who bailed out Kirk? Gronowski won. Go ahead.
Yes,
defense.
Yes, defense, because so Penn State's 24 points, you just look at that at the box score, it's a little misleading to how well Iowa's defense played, because one of them came on the block field goal. The other one came on another touchdown came on a short field after Gronowski's pick on the first possession. So that's 14 points right there. And then the other 10, credit to Penn State for that drive to open the second half. But then it turns out to be huge that Iowa held Penn State to that field goal. I think it was in the fourth quarter. That's when Cohen Entringer basically Yeah.
It's 5 minutes to go. Less than 5 minutes to go.
Cohen Entringer basically clotheslined Ethan Grunkemeyer. And Entringer had a good game outside of the he had the pass interference, and then the offsides was him. But outside of that, he had a good game. And then your guy Xavier Wampa, who you've been talking about since the end of the game, he had this.
Have you heard of him?
This might have been his best game at Iowa. Like he was flying around. Then he has a pick, almost has a pick six. Iowa's now been a hair away from a pick six in 2 consecutive games between him and Aaron
It didn't continue. Yeah.
But the defense, to me, it's like with everything that Iowa lost last season, like you could literally just go down the list of all the production, even like beyond the obvious guys like Jay Higgins, Nick Jackson, Sebastian Castro, Quinn Schulte, Y.A. Black, Jamari Harris. Like even someone like Kyler Fisher is probably like underappreciated for his role. There was so many guys, not only in their production, but just like their experience, like how many, just the sheer amount of games these guys played at the college level. And Phil Parker has managed to get this unit like playing at a really high level. Basically, outside of the first half against Rutgers, Iowa's defense has just been really good. And it's a credit to the guys that were waiting their turn, that they were paying attention to what was going on in front of them. And the togetherness, Cohen Entringer was like pretty demonstrative and about just how much he cares about the guys that he's playing with. It's just Iowa's defense has been really good. And we thought coming into the season, like we were legitimately concerned, like,
right.
We thought there was as many questions on Iowa's defense as offense, which was a little bit odd. Like we legitimately were not sure what Iowa's defense was going to look like, and it's been really good.
Yeah, definitely. Entringer 11 tackles tonight, led the way. Wampa 10 tackles, Carson Shire 9 tackles, Jaden Montgomery 7 tackles, Aaron Graves 7, Zach Lutmer 7, TJ Hall 6, Jackson Rexroth 6. Defense was on the field a ton, and it was interesting when you looked at if you look at the drive charts for the second half, like all of Penn State's drives were long in plays. Iowa's were very short. Iowa really didn't have the ball much in the second half. They just scored too quick, everyone. No, but one of them came off the 4th down stop. What a great stop that was, just collectively across the defensive line. The 4th and inches when Penn State took the gamble. You know, an interim coach is going to take that gamble. Iowa was ready for it. Jaden Montgomery, I noticed he knifed in there to kind of fill one of those gaps. I don't think he made the hit, but he just clogged it just enough where there wasn't a lane for anyone to go or spin forward. That got Iowa a field goal, right? I think they ended up getting 3 out of that stop. So and that made it 21-19, and then that led to 24-20-19. And then 25-24. So yeah, I just want to credit the defense for being on the field for 74 plays versus Iowa had it for only 49, and still held Penn State to 266 yards. So 3.6 yards per play. That's a crazy good number. How do you think Iowa handled the quarterback? Grunkemeyer and also Jackson Smolik got in, a Dowling alum. Never threw a pass. He was a run tell when he was in there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Grunkemeyer deserves some credit for someone making his first start of his college career, just with everything going on in the Penn State program and all the adversity they're facing, and then having his first career start being at Iowa at a night game at Kinnick is not an easy task. And he didn't play great. Like he threw 2 interceptions. Deshaun Lee got in there as well. Iowa continues to do a good job now of forcing turnovers after that was a little bit of one of their few weaknesses earlier in the season. But I thought Grunkemeyer, he made some plays with his legs, and it could have looked worse. I guess maybe that's the best way I can put it. Like it could have, I was expecting worse, and he looked poised for someone out there that was young, and he made some good throws. And Iowa, for not having a lot of film on him, I thought handled him pretty well. Also, like there was some unknown on Iowa's part as well of just what they were going to get from him. But obviously get a big help from the special teams and then having the short field in the first half. So I thought Grunkemeyer, credit to him. I think he, given the circumstances, he did pretty well. But Iowa's defense, I'm trying to think of who else on. And it's funny because the Deshaun Lee pick almost ended up working out worse for Iowa because they were pinned real deep, whereas it looked like Penn State was getting ready to punt it away and could have ended up going in the end zone. Here's another thing. I'm just thinking about offense. Well, I was thinking about special teams because punting. I was getting super creative in the way that they're getting Caden Weege in the ball. They did it last week against Wisconsin, did it again this week. They're having him in the backfield. Tim Lester is trying to get him the ball a lot, get him in open space. And I mean, I wholeheartedly agree with that. But he's definitely becoming more of a factor on Iowa's offense. Anyhow, Deshaun Lee gets a pick, but it ends up kind of not being a huge factor because Iowa was backed up pretty deep in their own zone. Anyways.
Man, you're all over the place here. What on earth?
I don't know, man. We're trying.
Special teams punting. All right, let's do some 3-word headlines, folks. 3-word headlines. Gabe Johnson says Gronowski for Heisman. Hawkerella, voice is shot. Let's give a shout to the crowd. The crowd was phenomenal. You guys were really into this game. I could feel the energy just coming into the stadium when we walked in, or walked back up from the field level like about an hour before the game. It was buzzing. And you guys really brought it tonight. And I think the crowd was a big factor in this game. No question about it. Just like 2021.
And if I could add in too, it wasn't a game where the crowd had reason to be in it the whole time. Like
they brought it. Yeah,
there was reason to kind of. I don't know if it wasn't extreme enough for people to leave, but like the way that Iowa started the game, quickly took the crowd out of it, and then the way that the first half ended and second half started, like there was reason for the crowd to not be engaged, and they kind of stuck with it as Iowa was building momentum there in the second half.
Slater Kinnick says Mark's Funky Bunch. I like that one. That's a good one. Just think if they had beaten Indiana, though. I mean, like, they'd be on top of the Big Ten right now with all these kind of if they would have beaten Indiana and beaten Penn State. And like, oh, man.
Well, I mean, if you just needed one of the two between Iowa State and Indiana, because if Iowa's only loss was Indiana, that's like they're basically going to be the number 2 team in the country.
Yeah, right. Weedom 8. Chuck Long approves. Tyler, this is way before you were born, but Chuck Long had the famous bootleg in 1985 against Michigan State for the winning touchdown, a 31-28 win against the Spartans on a CBS game with Brent Musburger and Eric Parsegian on the call. That was a famed bootleg, and this happens 40 years later, Tyler. Mark Gronowski's bootleg, which he said only he and Tim Lester knew. They were the only two in the stadium that knew he was going to keep the ball. They had been talking about this for a long time together, that sometime they were going to do this, and he did it to clinch the win. So if Iowa gets stuffed there, they're going to have to punt it away one more time. Now, Penn State would have only had maybe 10, 15 seconds. But, crazier things have happened. They only needed a field goal. So, and let's be honest, I don't think you wanted Iowa trying to even get off a punt. You didn't want that blocked in that situation. So good job, Mark Gronowski, on that. Let's get a couple more headlines and get your reaction. David Eichholt weighed in. He said backyard football. It's 2 words. He said don't need 3. Backyard football, that's a little whatever. Brian Ferentz said backyard football wouldn't work. Tim Klunder says big games ahead. Also says kick the PAT. I do agree. It was too early to go for 2, especially because college, the 2-pointer is from the 3-yard line. Pros, it's from the 2. From the 3, that's a tough ask. And they really weren't very close on either 2. But big games ahead. How about Minnesota beating Nebraska on Friday night? That game suddenly is a big one. Have we seen a time yet? Scott Docterman was thinking it would be 2:30 on CBS, but I don't know if that's for sure. Have we seen it yet?
I have not seen a time yet.
Okay.
No, Minnesota is probably better than I expected at 5-2, 3-1 in the conference. I thought Nebraska would put up a much better fight and probably win the game, but that didn't happen. Here, just more on this game is if Iowa could not win this game, which it was very close to not doing, I think it would have begged the question of like, what would it have taken for Iowa to finally beat one of these premier programs? Because if they couldn't do it against a reeling Penn State team at home on a night game against a quarterback making his college debut, I don't know when Iowa could do it. So it kind of, on an alternate timeline a little bit, I think it avoids a lot of the questions that would have faced the program of not being able to win these types of games against these upper echelon type programs. Iowa kind of breaks through that and gets over the hump in that sense, beating, hasn't beaten Penn State, Ohio State, or Michigan since 2021, but now they kind of break through that. It's not a rank win, which Iowa has still not been able to take care of, but they'll get a chance against, speaking of Minnesota, after Minnesota, they'll get Oregon. So,
yeah, who knows? Maybe Minnesota will be ranked. I don't think so, but Tom Kraft says Hawkeye Jesus won. Scott says chase the points. Gronowski ignites Kinnick from Austin Broyles. Austin Rickardson, the Gronowski game. There's a lot of Gronowski love. I found a good one. I want to get back to it. Dane Schultz says Hawks overcome coaching. So there's still a lot of people not happy with Ferentz's decisions, but let's be honest, like there was some pretty good Tim Lester coaching out there. There's some pretty good Phil Parker coaching out there. There's some good coaching on this field in this game. So, but anyway, great. Yeah, big. I don't know. I'm gonna guess Iowa's favored by 5.5 points, something like that, against Minnesota. So it's a game they should win. It would be, and they could get to 6-2 ahead of that big Oregon game. Oregon looked good today at Rutgers, by the way.
Yeah, if I could be 6-2 going into that Oregon game, I still don't think that Iowa would beat Oregon, but you put yourselves in position to try to do something pretty remarkable. And that's given that Iowa kind of put itself a little bit behind the sticks, losing to both Iowa State and Indiana in tightly contested games. You give yourselves at least a chance to do something, and you would expect Kinnick to just be outrageously passionate for that one. But you have to beat Minnesota to have a chance of doing that.
All right, man. Well, we got to get back to our stories. So thanks for joining us as always on the Hawk Central podcast. We'll be back with you Tuesday to recap the Minnesota presser. Tyler Tachman, Chad Leistikow. Talk to you soon.